Good evening, and welcome to Sleep Sanctuary, where calmness and imagination meet to guide you into a restful sleep. Tonight, let us wander together to a place where time stands still and the whispers of the ocean carry tales of the past. Close your eyes and imagine the rhythmic crash of waves against rugged cliffs, the salty breeze brushing your skin, and a faint, flickering light far in the distance. Tonight, we'll journey to the edge of the world, to an ancient lighthouse that still holds its quiet vigil. Let the cares of the day slip away, and let the pull of curiosity guide you into this peaceful story. It begins on a night like no other. The moon hangs low in the sky, casting a silver glow over the endless sea. I found myself walking along a forgotten coastline, the path beneath my feet soft with sand and scattered with smooth, weathered stones. The world felt hushed, as if even nature was holding its breath. The only sound was the steady lull of the waves, a melody that seemed to echo a deeper truth I couldn't yet grasp. And then I saw it. At first, it was nothing more than a pinprick of light on the horizon, barely distinguishable from the stars. But as I walked closer, the light grew stronger, steadier, almost alive. There, perched on a jagged cliff, stood the lighthouse. Its stone walls were weathered, its silhouette both imposing and comforting, as if it had been waiting for me all along. Something about that light was magnetic. It wasn't just a beacon cutting through the night, it felt like a promise, a guiding hand reaching out through the darkness. My steps quickened, and my heart stirred with a sense of wonder I hadn't felt in years. What was this place? Who had built it, and why did its light still shine after all this time? As I approached, the wind carried the faint scent of salt and something else, something old, like the pages of a book left too long in the sun. The lighthouse seemed impossibly preserved, its glow unwavering despite the years it had weathered. Little did I know, stepping closer to that ancient beacon would lead me to stories I'd never forget, stories of resilience, dedication, and the power of light to guide us through even the fiercest storms. Take a deep breath, letting the air flow in slowly and effortlessly. Hold it for a moment, then exhale softly, releasing any tension. Feel yourself sinking deeper into relaxation, as though you're being cradled by the soothing rhythm of the ocean. Imagine the gentle ebb and flow of the waves, their sound a lullaby that carries you further into peace. Picture yourself standing on the shoreline. The sand beneath your feet is cool, soft, and grounding. With each step you take along the quiet beach, you feel lighter, calmer, more at ease. The sky above is vast and clear, filled with stars twinkling like tiny lanterns lighting your way. In the distance, you see the lighthouse glowing steadily, its light cutting through the serene darkness. It's not just a beacon for ships, it feels like it's guiding you too. Its glow brings comfort, reminding you that even in the quietest, loneliest nights, there's always a light to be found. Let the image of the lighthouse settle in your mind. Let its soft, golden glow fill your thoughts, pushing away the noise of the day. Picture its steady rhythm, turning gently, casting its light across the sea. As you stand there, feel the cool breeze on your skin. It carries the faint scent of salt and seaweed, grounding you further in this tranquil moment. You are here, safe and calm, guided by the light and the steady pulse of the ocean. With each breath, let yourself drift deeper into this peaceful state. Let go of worries, doubts, or distractions. Just be here, by the lighthouse, where calmness meets the sea. Rest easy in this quiet moment, knowing that the light will always be there, steady and unwavering, to guide you through the night. Before we begin, if you enjoy calming bedtime stories, consider liking this video and subscribing for more relaxing content. Now, let's get back to our story. The lighthouse door creaked as I stepped inside, the sound echoing faintly in the stillness. The air was cooler here, carrying with it a faint mix of salt and old wood. The space was dimly lit, but enough moonlight streamed through small windows to illuminate the interior. It was as though time had paused, leaving this place untouched by the years. The walls were lined with shelves, their surfaces covered in layers of dust and small, carefully arranged objects, a compass, a brass telescope, and a stack of faded logs bound with fraying string. The air held a quiet reverence, as if the lighthouse itself was holding its breath, waiting for me to discover its secrets. At the center of the room stood a wooden table, its surface worn smooth by years of use. On it lay a leather-bound journal, its cover cracked and weathered but still intact. My fingers brushed against it hesitantly, as though touching a relic. Opening the journal, I found pages filled with neat, precise handwriting, the ink slightly faded but still legible. The entries were dated decades ago, each one beginning with the same phrase, "The light must never go out." These words, written with such quiet conviction, sent a shiver through me. The writer was the keeper of this lighthouse, and their words revealed a life lived in solitude but with purpose. Through the journal, I glimpsed the keeper's days, long hours spent maintaining the light, battling fierce storms, and keeping vigil during endless nights. It wasn't an easy life, but there was a steadfast dedication in their words, a quiet pride in their role. The keeper described the joy of seeing a ship safely pass by after a storm, knowing their light had guided it to safety. But there were also moments of loneliness, hinted at in the gaps between the lines. The keeper spoke of the sound of the wind howling through the tower, the endless expanse of the ocean, and the longing for a voice to answer their own. Yet, even in these moments, there was no regret. The keeper had embraced their solitude, finding purpose in the simple but profound act of keeping the light alive. I sat with the journal for what felt like hours, the keeper's words wrapping around me like a warm embrace. Their story was one of quiet bravery, a life lived not for recognition or glory, but for the unseen lives they saved. Each entry was a testament to resilience, a reminder that even in the most isolated places, a single light could make all the difference. As I turned the final page, I noticed something tucked between the covers, a faded photograph. It showed a man standing on the rocky cliffs beside the lighthouse, his face weathered but kind, his expression calm and steady. This was the keeper, the one who had poured their life into this place. I placed the photograph back gently and closed the journal, feeling a quiet reverence for the life I had glimpsed. Sitting there in the dim light, surrounded by the echoes of the past, I began to understand the significance of this lighthouse. It wasn't just a structure, it was a symbol of hope, of perseverance, of the unwavering strength it takes to guide others through life's storms. The wind outside picked up, whistling softly through the cracks in the walls. The light above me continued its steady rotation, casting its glow across the sea. I stayed there for a while longer, letting the keeper's story sink in, before quietly leaving the journal where I had found it. This place, and the life it had held, was more than a relic of the past. It was a reminder that even in solitude, even in darkness, there is purpose in keeping the light alive. I climbed the narrow staircase spiraling upward, the walls curving around me in a tight embrace. The air was cooler here, and the scent of salt and iron lingered. Each step echoed softly, a rhythmic sound that matched the steady beat of the waves crashing against the cliffs outside. The light above continued its slow, deliberate rotation, illuminating the path ahead in brief flashes. When I reached the next level, I found another small room, sparsely furnished with a single wooden chair, a weathered desk, and a set of shelves filled with more journals. Unlike the one downstairs, these journals were neatly organized and labeled with dates spanning decades. It seemed the keeper had documented every moment, every storm, and every passing ship in painstaking detail. Curious, I selected a journal from a year marked by several storms. As I flipped through the pages, I was transported into the past, into nights filled with chaos and uncertainty. The entries were vivid, the words leaping off the page as though the keeper was recounting their memories directly to me. One storm in particular stood out, a ferocious tempest that threatened to extinguish the light. The keeper described the violent winds battering the tower, rain lashing against the windows, and waves so high they seemed to reach for the sky. They wrote of their desperate attempts to keep the light burning, racing up and down the stairs to check the mechanisms, their muscles aching, their heart pounding. There were moments when the keeper wasn't sure they would succeed. The storm raged for hours, unrelenting, and the fear of failure hung heavy in the air. Yet, through sheer determination, they kept the beacon alive. The entry ended with a simple yet powerful statement: when the storm passed, the light remained. Another entry recounted a different storm, one not of wind and rain, but of thick, impenetrable fog. The keeper described how the lighthouse's glow pierced the shroud, providing a lifeline for a ship lost in the murky depths of uncertainty. They could only imagine the relief on the sailors' faces when they saw the light cutting through the grey. As I read, I realized these storms were more than just weather events. They were metaphors for life's struggles, the moments when everything feels overwhelming, when the weight of the world threatens to extinguish our inner light. Yet, just like the keeper, we have the power to persevere, to keep our light shining no matter how fierce the storm. One journal entry caught my attention. The keeper spoke of a shipwreck, a tragic night when even the lighthouse's guiding light couldn't save everyone. The keeper wrote of standing on the cliffs, helpless as the waves claimed the vessel. Yet, even in their sorrow, they found solace in the lives that had been saved because the light had been there at all. Not every storm ends in triumph, they wrote, but the light must shine regardless. I set the journal down and gazed out the narrow window. The ocean stretched endlessly, its surface rippling under the moonlight. I could almost see the storms described in the journals, the violent winds, the crashing waves, the swirling fog. But I could also see the light cutting through it all, steadfast and unyielding. The keeper's words stayed with me. They had faced every storm with courage, knowing their role was to guide others, even when the outcome was uncertain. Sitting there in the quiet room, I felt a profound sense of connection to this place and to the resilience it symbolized. Life, too, is filled with storms, some we weather, some we stumble through, and some we emerge from forever changed. But like the lighthouse, we can remain a beacon of light, a symbol of hope for ourselves and those around us. And when the storm passes, our light, no matter how faint, can still shine. As dawn approached, I ascended the final staircase leading to the lantern room, the highest point of the lighthouse. The stairs were narrower here, worn smooth from years of use. My footsteps echoed softly, mingling with the distant sound of waves crashing against the rocks. The air felt different, thinner, charged with a quiet energy. The lantern room greeted me with a breathtaking view of the coastline and the endless sea beyond. The great glass panes, though streaked with age, framed the world in every direction. The beacon itself stood at the center, a masterpiece of engineering, its mechanisms humming softly as it turned. Even now, its light swept across the waters, a steady, reassuring presence in the fading darkness. I stood there, mesmerized by the vastness of the sea. The waves sparkled under the faint morning light, a reminder of the ocean's dual nature, calm and beautiful, yet powerful and untamed. And as I gazed out, something unexpected happened. I began to hear whispers. At first, I thought it was the wind, slipping through the cracks in the glass. But as I listened more closely, the whispers grew distinct, as if carried on the breeze from far away. They were soft, gentle voices, speaking in tones of relief, gratitude, and wonder. I leaned against the glass, straining to hear. The voices seemed to weave together, telling fragmented stories of sailors who had passed by this lighthouse. One voice spoke of a night when their ship had nearly been dashed against the rocks, the light appearing just in time to guide them to safety. Another recounted a moment of despair in an endless storm, the sight of the beacon giving them the strength to hold on just a little longer. I closed my eyes, letting the voices wash over me. They weren't just recounting their gratitude to the keeper or the lighthouse itself. They were also stories of survival, resilience, and hope. Each voice painted a picture of a life forever changed because a single light had shone in the darkness. One voice stood out from the rest. It spoke with a deep sense of wonder, describing a time when the fog was so thick that the crew couldn't even see the bow of their own ship. They had been lost, drifting aimlessly, until the faint glow of the lighthouse pierced through the haze. That light, the voice said, was like a star fallen to earth, showing us the way home. I opened my eyes, scanning the horizon as if expecting to see the ships and sailors these voices belonged to. But there was nothing, only the waves rolling endlessly beneath the light, steady sweep. The whispers began to fade, leaving behind a profound stillness. I found myself wondering if they were real, or if the lighthouse itself had somehow shared its memories with me. Either way, the experience left me awed. This place, with its quiet strength and steadfast glow, wasn't just a guide for ships. It was a symbol of hope, its light carrying stories of courage and survival across the winds of time. Standing there in the lantern room, I felt a deep sense of reverence for the keeper and the generations of sailors who had passed through these waters. The lighthouse wasn't just a structure, it was a bridge between lives, a connection between those who sought its guidance and those who maintained its light. As the first rays of sunlight broke over the horizon, I realized I was no longer just an observer. By being here, by listening to the whispers on the wind, I had become part of the lighthouse's story. Its light had touched me too, reminding me that even in life's darkest moments, a single guiding presence can make all the difference. And as I stood there, bathed in the light of dawn, I felt at peace, knowing that the lighthouse would continue its work, steady, unwavering, and eternal. As morning bathed the lighthouse in golden light, I descended back into the living quarters. The journals I had read earlier lingered in my mind, their words etched deep into my thoughts. Yet, one question remained unanswered. Who was the keeper of this extraordinary place? Who dedicated their life to tending this beacon, night after night, storm after storm? The answer, it seemed, lay in the small collection of personal items tucked into a corner of the room. A faded photograph rested on a wooden shelf, its frame worn smooth. It captured an older man with kind, weathered eyes and a soft smile, standing beside the lighthouse. His hands were calloused, but they rested gently on the railing, as if he was both protector and companion to the structure. The caption beneath it read simply, "Thomas Whitaker, Keeper of the Light." I imagine Thomas's life here. Solitude must have been his constant companion, the only company the distant sound of the waves, and the steady rhythm of the lantern turning above. Day after day, season after season, he must have followed a strict routine, polishing the lenses, maintaining the gears, and ensuring the light never failed. In the quiet moments, what did he think about? Did he ever feel the ache of loneliness? Or did the lighthouse itself, with its steadfast presence, become his companion? I found a journal that seemed more personal, its cover different from the others. Inside were not log entries but thoughts, reflections, and even a few sketches. In one entry, Thomas wrote, "The world may not see me, but it sees the light. And through the light, I exist." The word struck me deeply. It was as if Thomas found meaning not in being recognized, but in the quiet knowledge that his work mattered. The lighthouse wasn't just a job to him, it was his purpose, his way of contributing to the lives of strangers he would never meet. Another entry revealed moments of longing. Thomas wrote of missing the laughter of family gatherings and the warmth of a home filled with voices. But he never expressed regret for choosing this life. Instead, he wrote, "To be the keeper of the light is to be a guardian of hope." What more could one ask for? As I continued to read, the journal revealed a profound resilience in Thomas. He acknowledged the challenges of solitude, but found solace in the rhythm of the sea and the purpose of his duty. He often wrote about the beauty of the world he observed from his high vantage point, the migration of birds, the changing hues of the ocean, and the way storms transformed the landscape into something both fierce and magnificent. One passage stood out among the rest: "The light must always shine, not because it is easy, but because someone out there depends on it." In this, I find my peace. It was clear that Thomas saw his role as more than a responsibility. He saw it as a calling. His life, though solitary, was rich with meaning and purpose. I sat by the small desk, imagining what it must have been like for him during those long nights. Perhaps he sat where I was now, pen in hand, recording his thoughts while the storm howled outside. Perhaps he stood at the window, watching the waves crash below, knowing the light above was cutting through the darkness, a lifeline for those at sea. As I placed the journal back on the shelf, I felt a quiet gratitude for Thomas Whitaker and the countless other keepers who dedicated their lives to something greater than themselves. Their work, though unseen and uncelebrated, carried immense weight. The room felt alive with his presence, as if his spirit lingered, watching over the lighthouse even now. And as I looked out at the vast expanse of ocean, I understood the profound beauty of his solitude. It wasn't loneliness, but a connection to something timeless and infinite. The light continued to turn, steady and unyielding, just as it always had. The sun sank low on the horizon, casting golden light across the sea as the evening deepened. Yet, as I gazed out from the lighthouse window, I noticed clouds gathering in the distance. A deep grey wall was forming on the horizon, its edges glowing faintly in the setting sun's last rays. The air inside the lighthouse grew heavy, and the rhythmic hum of the beacon felt louder against the growing silence of the world outside. I settled into a chair near the window, listening to the shifting winds as they began to whisper and rise. Something about the approaching storm felt different, almost alive. As the first distant crack of thunder echoed across the water, I felt drawn once again to Thomas Whitaker's journals. Perhaps the answer to this feeling was hidden in his words. I found an entry written during a fierce storm decades ago. Thomas described a night when the sea was wild with rage, waves towering higher than the cliffs themselves. Ships had vanished into the tempest, and he feared his light wouldn't be enough to pierce through the chaos. The storm tests the keeper as much as the sea tests the sailors, Thomas had written. But in the darkest hours, the light must prevail. The word stayed with me as the storm approached. Rain began to lash against the glass panes of the lantern room above, and the wind howled like a restless spirit. I climbed to the top of the lighthouse, where the beacon turned steadily, its light unwavering even as the storm raged around it. Standing beside the great lantern, I marveled at its persistence. Lightning illuminated the dark sky in brilliant flashes, revealing the fury of the ocean below. Waves crashed against the rocks with a deafening roar, and the lighthouse trembled faintly under the storm's power. Yet the beacon remained constant, sweeping across the water with a calm, steady rhythm. It was then that I understood the deeper meaning of Thomas's words. The storm wasn't just a test of the lighthouse, it was a test of the spirit. The light wasn't simply a tool for navigation, it was a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the most violent tempests, something steady and reliable could guide the way. As I stood in the lantern room, a strange thing happened. The whispers I'd heard earlier returned, this time louder and clearer. But now, they weren't fragmented stories. They were words of gratitude, spoken with such clarity that I felt as though the voices surrounded me. One voice spoke of a ship that had been on the brink of disaster, saved at the last moment by the light breaking through the storm. Another recalled a sailor who had prayed for a miracle, only to see the beacon shining through the rain, guiding them to safety. And then a new voice emerged, calm, steady, and deeply familiar. The storm will pass, but the light endures. Trust in the beacon, as I always did. It was Thomas. His presence filled the lantern room, not as a ghost or apparition, but as an echo of his enduring spirit. The lighthouse wasn't just a building, it was an extension of him, of his dedication and purpose. I felt an overwhelming sense of connection, as though he was there beside me, watching the storm with quiet resolve. The storm raged on, but the light never faltered. I stayed in the lantern room for hours, watching the beacon carve through the darkness. By the time the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, the storm had begun to calm. The waves retreated, the wind softened, and the clouds broke apart to reveal a sky streaked with the colors of sunrise. As I descended the stairs, I carried Thomas's message with me. The storm had tested both the lighthouse and myself, but the light had endured. It always would. In its constancy, I found strength, and the promise that even in life's most tumultuous moments, we can hold on to the guiding light that leads us forward. As dawn spread across the sky, the lighthouse stood serene, its steadfast presence unwavering after the night's storm. The crashing waves had quieted to a rhythmic murmur, and the sea glistened like liquid silver beneath the soft light of morning. I lingered near the lantern room, reluctant to leave the place that had offered me such profound clarity and solace. The journals, the stories, and the whispers of the lighthouse all circled in my mind like a mosaic of lives interconnected by this beacon of hope. I had come here seeking an escape from my thoughts, but instead, I had found something far greater, a sense of connection and purpose that I hadn't realized I needed. I descended the spiral staircase one final time, pausing in the room where Thomas Whitaker had once lived. His photograph remained on the shelf, his kind eyes watching over the space. I wondered how many others had stood here, drawn to this lighthouse by the same invisible thread that had brought me. As I prepared to leave, my eyes fell upon an envelope tucked behind one of the journals. It was addressed simply, "To those who come after me." With a hesitant hand, I opened it, revealing a letter written in Thomas's neat handwriting. "To those who find themselves in this light," it began, "know that you are never truly alone. This lighthouse was built to guide, to protect, and to remind us that even in the darkest storms, there is always a way forward. The light is not just for the sailors at sea, it is for you, for me, for anyone who needs it. It endures because hope endures. Take this with you, and may it guide you through the storms of your life." The words resonated deeply. I folded the letter carefully and placed it back where I had found it, feeling as though I was part of an unbroken chain of keepers, not of the lighthouse itself, but of its legacy. As I stepped outside, the morning air was crisp, carrying with it the faint scent of salt and earth. The lighthouse behind me gleamed in the sunlight, its white walls a stark contrast against the vivid blue of the sea. The beacon, though now invisible in the daylight, continued its silent rotation, ready to shine when darkness fell once more. Walking along the rocky coastline, I felt a profound sense of peace. The journey I had taken, both to this place and within myself, had been transformative. The lighthouse had not only guided countless sailors to safety, but had also reminded me of the strength and resilience we all carry within us. I turned back for one last look. The lighthouse stood tall, its silhouette etched against the endless horizon. It was more than a structure, it was a symbol, a keeper of stories, and a guardian of hope. As I made my way back to the trail, I realized that the lessons of this place would stay with me, much like the steady glow of its beacon. The storms of life may come and go, but the light, the hope, the strength, the guidance will always endure, waiting to guide us home. That night, as I lay in bed far from the lighthouse, I felt its presence as if it were beside me. I closed my eyes and saw the beam of light cutting through the dark, steady and unwavering. And in that moment, I understood the message Thomas had left behind. The light endures, not just in the lighthouse, but in each of us. Rest well, and may your dreams be as steadfast and luminous as the light that guided us tonight. Thank you for listening. If this story helped you relax, please like the video and subscribe for more. Sweet dreams.